Picture this. You're at a park and a child near you drops to the floor. She appears to be unconscious and isn't breathing. No one knows what's going on and nobody knows what to do. In the panic, no one even calls 911. In scenarios like this, knowing how to perform CPR can be vital. Though I'm not a CPR instructor and can't certify you, I am a lifeguard at the YMCA and have been certified in CPR and BLS. By the end of my speech today, I hope to leave you with some life-saving tips and tricks on how to perform CPR. When learning about CPR, there are 3 crucial things to remember. 1, you need to understand what CPR is. 2, you need to know how to perform CPR. And 3, you can't let fear stop you from helping. CPR can be a daunting task, but by remembering these 3 things, you'll be prepared for any emergency. The first thing you need to understand when learning about CPR is what CPR even is and why it's important. CPR stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation and is a procedure that can save a person's life if they go into cardiac arrest. The goal of CPR is to make sure that oxygenated blood gets to the brain so that a person doesn't have organ failure or become brain dead. CPR is important because it increases the likelihood of survival for someone suffering a cardiac arrest. According to the American Heart Association, 350,000 people have cardiac arrests outside of the hospital, and unfortunately, 90% of those cardiac arrests lead to death. But if a bystander performs CPR in these types of cases, the chances of survival increase by 45%. By being that bystander, you can help save a person's life. You now know what CPR is and why it's important. So now I will go over how to perform CPR so that you'll be ready for any emergency. When performing CPR, there are 3 vital components: compressions, breaths, and using an AED. The first thing we need to do when you perform CPR is do compressions. You need to make sure that the person you're helping is on a flat ground. You need to kneel right beside them, and you need to make sure to put your hands in either one of 2 of these positions, like this, or intertwining your hands like this. Put the heel of your palm right in the middle of the chest in between the nipple line and start compressing. You'll need to compress to about a rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute. You'll also need to compress to a depth of about 2 inches, so use your body weight and don't be afraid to use a strength. You will probably break a few ribs. After 30 compressions, you'll have to start giving 2 breaths. If you don't have a barrier, don't give breaths. Continue doing compressions. But if you do have a barrier, put it on the victim's mouth, tilt their head back, and give 2 breaths. Then continue to do compressions. Hopefully by now, EMS is on its way and an AED has arrived. You can stop doing CPR and start setting up an AED. An AED stands for an automated external defibrillator, and it essentially shocks the patient's heart to make sure that the electric signals the heart's electric signals are restarted. All you need to do is turn on the AED and follow its instructions. It's super simple and is made for civilian use. While you're waiting for EMS to come, continue to do CPR and continue to follow the instructions of an AED. These are the steps to performing CPR, but knowing them is different from using them. CPR can be a scary thing to do, so I want to let you know why you shouldn't be afraid to help. Remember that anyone can do CPR with the proper instructions, and that you are protected by the law if you go and help. If you ever forget what to do, call 911. 911 operators are trained to help you and talk you through everything you need to do. They can talk you through how to do CPR and how to use an AED, so if you ever forget, just call them. And if you're afraid that you'll mess up when trying to help and perform CPR, remember that you were protected by the law. As long as you don't do something really bad or negligent, you won't be sued. Just don't use any of your medical show drama knowledge. You just stick with CPR and AED and you'll be fine. There's no need to be afraid of performing CPR. There are systems in place to make sure that you can be the most helpful to those around you. And now I'll conclude my speech. Performing CPR is a great technique to have in your arsenal. Remember that performing CPR is a step-by-step process. First, you want to check if the scene is safe, then check vitals, call 911, grab an AED, and finally perform compressions and breaths till paramedics arrive. It can be scary knowing that a life is in your hands, but don't let that fear drive you away. At the very least, call 911. And if you have time to spare, take a CPR class. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't gone over in this speech that are extremely crucial and vital to helping in an emergency. So take a class. You'll never know when it'll come in handy.